Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Humans Have Made Demons Redundant. Written by Random3X. So, this is where the demon lives, Hallie asked her guide as he led the way through the mountains. She had spent quite a lot of money just for a chance to see an actual creature of myth, only to be disappointed time and time again. Too often, they had been statues of monsters or just some poor person with a deformity from injury or disease. Never anything from countless texts that filled the archives. She wanted to encounter a nightmare, the beings that took the form of people most feared. Or maybe a skin changer. Her desire for the experience was such that even with her family's long-built fortune, she'd still made a considerable dent in it. "Worry not, pretty lady, we'll soon be at the valley," the dwarven guide Hans assured her. The man was highly recommended as one of the few that knew safe passages through the Dragon Nest mountain range. Despite its name, dragons hadn't been seen since the Dusk Republic had been founded. Many doubted the creatures even existed, though Hanny was a believer. "Good. I paid a lot to see the Valley of Nightmares and expect to get my money's worth. Worry not, pretty lady, though it is called the Valley of the Sleeping Horse." A clever renaming done by the 13th. You really should read up on the subject. The Academy has some fascinating texts about it. "I shall do that when I can afford the tuition, miss. But we are finally here," Hans replied, gesturing to the narrow passageway in the rock wall. Peering through, she could see a glimmer of light shining. "Village is filled with nice people living in peace. There is an old man, Gunther, who shall greet you. He knows all the residents and shall guide you from the entrance." Hallie nodded. Throughout the trek across the range, he had regaled her with tales of the most mundane people. The little isolated village where records said the most terrifying mystical creatures took refuge. Wiggling her way into the narrow passage, she pushed forward until the light at the end grew brighter and brighter. The passage opened onto a valley below, which was verdant with life. The chill of the range seemed devoid in its almost idyllic paradise. It would be a very nice place to take refuge from the world, but the world has growing and expanding, and they couldn't stay isolated forever. Our guest has arrived," an old and withered voice came from behind her. Turning around, Hallie saw an old man in simple clothes with a cane leaning against the wall next to the entrance. "Aye, she be the visitor that I told you about. The one with a taste for the old," Hans explained, freeing himself from the passage. "A taste for the old man repeated. His gaze swept over Hallie as a smirk spread across his face. "I can assist with that, though it depends on the old you wish to see. We have the old smithy with Tom. He is a big fellow working the angle. Or perhaps Miss Dorothy, the one in the tower." "I want to see the truly ancient," Hallie declared, her eyes alight with curiosity. "The tower, then, with Miss Old Dorothy. She is the caretaker of that thing," he replied, pointing his cane to the distance, where Hallie could make out a stone tower. "It used to belong to the 13th, you know." The old man's words caught Hallie off guard. If they were true, the tower would be an archaeological treasure trove. Even a few knickknacks from it would be prized possessions of any museum. "To the tower, then," Hallie said excitedly, gesturing to the worn path before them. Nodding to Hans, the old man began to lead the way. "I'm Hallie, by the way. Sorry for forgetting my manners," Hallie said as she walked beside the old man. "I am Gunther," the old man replied with a smirk as he gestured to the village that was coming into clear view. Walking into the village was like stepping back in time to Hallie. All the buildings looked centuries old, though, as if they had been only built recently. Above all, though, the people confused her. They all seemed to be dressed in simple garb. Hallie presumed that the latest brands would not likely reach this place like this. However, glancing at the dwarf trailing behind them in the South Bridgerton football top somewhat quashed the idea that this place was entirely cut off. "So, are there any nightmares here?" Hallie asked eagerly. "Ah!" Gunther stopped in his tracks and looked at the girl. "I see you're one of those. Very well. Mr. Halastrixerax shall be the one you meet then, not Miss Dorothy. Mr. What? Just call him Mr. Hallas. He will explain it to you, Gunter explained as he turned her off the path to the tower towards a small cottage. With a knock at the door, an old man called out, "Our guest is one of those. Explain as best you can, lad." Turning to Hattie, Gunter placed a hand on her shoulder and looked her in the eyes. "This is your last chance to meet Mrs. Dorothy. She can share the history. If you want the mystical well, be prepared to wet yourself." Hattie nodded, determined to proceed as she gently opened the door, expecting to see the most horrifying demon ever. "Mr. Hallis," Hattie called out, gently as she looked around the dim cottage, finding a hulking figure the size of a titan by the fireplace. The creature her eyes fell upon was the most horrifying thing that she could ever imagined. She felt a primal fear, but her curiosity quickly overcame it, as she was more drawn to discovering who or even what he was. "So, you're a nightmare?" Hattie asked tentatively. "Me? No. I'm a plain old demon from the Seventh Circle. Not a nightmare, so you wish," came his reply. "I was told that I would meet a nightmare, though. Not to say that I'm not pleased to meet a demon of any kind," Haley hastily replied, trying to cover her poor manners. "Well, you have. This is the village where they reside. Your records may fail to mention that they do not take on the form you most fear." "Then the villagers. Wait, what do you mean they don't take on the form we most fear?" "They take on the form you expect. The Fourth just used that trick to spread word of their fearful appearance, and boom, they got stuck looking like the scariest thing ever," the demon explained, pouring from a teapot into a cup. "So that's why the dwarf told me all those stories," Hallie muttered, realizing Hans had already set her up to have an image of what the locals looked like. "What of you, then? Where are the other demons?" The demon looked wistful, if that could ever be ascribed to an inhuman features that Hattie assumed made a face. "There are so few of us left, you know," the demon began conversation as he sipped from a cup of tea. "We used to be legion, all the beasties and monsters that went bump in the night, the kind of things you so wished to see, but now we are barely hanging on. Do you even know why that is?" Hattie shook her head while shrugging. "I honestly don't. Did hunters kill you all off?" "Well, no doubt a few of our number fell to hunters. It would not explain such a drastic drop. You see, human," the demon paused, his face crunched up, as if the word were excrement on his tongue. "You see, we feed and thrive off your race's fear of us. Back when you lived in little towns and villages, we would be able to gorge ourselves just by saying a little hello to the few residents. But now we barely get scraps, even from horror films, where our races are the stars." "Surely we're still afraid of you?" Hattie asked, knowing very much firsthand how scary this demon was. "You'd think so. But you things advanced. You made the world so much smaller and made things far more terrifying than anything a demon could conjure. You made weapons that would turn cities into dust at the press of a button. You had made devices to whisper sweet fears into your ears at every moment of your day and called it news. I am a demon, but your race has long since surpassed my race's ability to create fear. We're lucky if we get even a jump scare out of you." "Well, I am suitably scared of you, sir," Hattie offered. "Barely a snack to be had with my tea. I envy the nightmares, for they can eat as mortals do. But the kinds of creatures you so desire to meet, well, they are dying by inadequacy to your race's own efforts. Magic has long since faded from this world, and all the mystical creatures you wish to meet, well, they may be amongst you, but they are not in a position to relive their glory." "Is there any way to bring it back?" Hattie asked. "Not that I know of. The 13th and his merry band of lunatics could probably do something. But a little thing. Let me put it this way." The hulking massive demon put his teacup down with gentle care as he turned to face Hattie fully. "If that band of lunatics did do something like that, imagine the terror of the worst war imaginable, and then multiply it by me. Okay, gotcha. Not good. Well, Hattie fidgeted and shuffled in her spot under the demon's figure in front of her. The demon let out a long sigh. Yes, you can have a selfie. Just don't blame me when you get called a fake and accused of using AI artwork. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters. Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Drexzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.